Hello and welcome to this, the introduction to MicroStation V8i 3D. And we've reached the session where most of you will be coming first. So hello. This session is on rendering, and I'd like to introduce you to my latest rendering masterpiece, Polar Bears in a Blizzard. Now I know what you're thinking. That's complex. Look at the time he spent on it. And maybe one day you'll be able to scale the heights of this masterpiece and present it. But instead, we're going to start at something simpler. We're going to start at a project level, and we're going to start rendering. So let's go to our primary toolbar and our references, and open up our reference dialog box. When we do that, you'll see there's nothing in here, except the polar bears. We're going to attach a reference, and we're going to navigate through to our rendering file, our folder, and inside that, we're going to click on Design Files. And inside that folder, we're going to click on that folder called References. And, wow, there's a lot in here. We're going to go down to the sixth down from the top. That's called BSI 700-G0001-Composite. That's right. You can click on that, or just click on it and say Open. Once you do that, the Reference Attachment Settings dialog box opens up. And now we are just presented with a veritable swath of options. These options are really simple for us though in rendering. Okay, our model, we need total composite. Why? Because that's the only model in the whole file. So it makes it pretty simple. You can give it any logical name you want, but you've got to make sure your orientation is coincident, aligned with master file. And if I was you, I'd come down to nested attachments. I'd click on that jump box and say live nesting, and just for the safety factor, put in 99. And then click OK. You may need to fit your view, and we're just going to close this down for the moment. Here is the culmination of an engineering project. Actually, it's architectural and engineering project. Let's get some fun. Let's get our paintbrushes out and our graffiti kit. Let's have a zoom in, because we just want to have a look at this. Because MicroStation V8i has given you the ability to not only see it in this rather sort of 1980s wireframe mode, which doesn't do justice to the project itself, but we also have 8 individual views. Couple that with MicroStation V8i's display modes. We're going to bring this down here, and we're going to keep it as wireframe. I'm going to come down here to the bottom, and I'm going to be clicking on this view group toolbar here, which contains the numbers 1 to 8, which are some of our views. So we've opened up view 1, which is a top view, which has been rendered in one particular mode. Let's open up view 3. And here is another view of it, another camera view of it. We've navigated in, we've moved in. We're looking at perhaps the delivery system here from a front view. Let's have a look at number 5. Number 5 sort of monotone, monochrome perhaps. And it shows a lot of the DTM, the digital terrain model, and the situation of the tanks and their safety areas, and etc., etc. So you can see that you have different styles of rendering modes within inside MicroStation V8i, and we only have 4 of the 8 views open. Just think what you could do. Okay, let's just make this one larger. Not only do we do that, we have display modes in MicroStation V8i. We can also render, and boy can we render. We'll be rendering to the point where everybody else will be like, why did I spend all that money on a package to render, especially when it was inside MicroStation? It's under Utilities. It's under Render. And in Render, you can see that we have a number of options. We can do luxology rendering. We can do a fly-through. We can do a solar study or an animation. We're going to be using luxology in this session. There's another way to get at this as well. In each and every view, you have a toolbar at the top. If you hover your cursor over just one of the tools and you right-click, you will get a shopping list of 26 different tool sets you can include up there in the toolbar. So we want to come down to Render. And now it puts this lovely cube there called Render. Click on that. And it opens up the setup. This is luxology rendering inside of MicroStation V8i. And it is truly awesome. Like a hot dog. So, let's take a look at this. Across the top we have a series of icons. This one is to set the whole rendering going to begin it. This one It'll begin network rendering. You can map out across your system, across your server, across your offices, everywhere. Help you render as fast as possible. You've got others here which aren't activated currently. That's redisplay, stop, obviously. Then you've got some settings preferences. So Luxology render preferences, number of history images, bucket size, threads, etc., etc. You've got the light setups. These can be quite complex, as you can see. And inside the total composite are a number of different lighting setups. Then we move on to Luxology environmental settings. These are the fun ones, and we'll be messing around with these a lot, to a certain extent anyway. So with that, we'll close that one down. Then you've got define materials. This opens up the material editor in which you can now apply materials, specific materials to specific surfaces, to specific solids, etc. From that, we then go to our render settings, and there's a jump box here which makes it far easier. This gives you a number of presets so that you can take advantage of your system and Luxology at the same time. And you can see there, they should be self-explanatory. We're going to be looking at perhaps one or two of these. So we go from anywhere from draft all the way down to ray trace. And believe me, everything else in between, blooming brilliant. You can see, obviously, we have a slider bar here of performance to quality. And you can adjust this however you wish. Personally, if you're going to select one of these settings here, I'd let Luxology set the performance quality standards for you. Okay, next icon on is which view you're going to be rendering from. And up in the little corner here it says view 6, so we're okay. But you can choose any of the other views of MicStation, all 8 of them. It's the active view. Okay, and really important too, your XY size. I've got it as a 1024 by 768. If you were to click on the lock here, it will actually reduce it down or bang it up to other values. But if you want a specific value, you can come in here, 768. Okay. With all of this done, we're going to first do a rendering. We're going to do a draft rendering. Our performance has moved, and we're going to click begin. And there you have it, a draft rendering in just under 10 minutes. Of 1024 by 768. It tells you so at the bottom of the dialog, and it is a good rendering. It's satisfactory anyway. For instance, quite simply, we can start using different ways of looking at it in different render modes. There's another way of doing it too. What we're going to do here is actually delete this current image, minimize Luxology, because Luxology is great. It runs in the background. So as a multi-threaded part of MicroStation VNI, you just minimize it. It can do its own business. It'll be okay. Not a problem. Because what we can do, we can come up to our primary toolbar. We can go to our saved views. And inside our saved views dialog box, we have 6. So if you just want to click on some of these, double click and then click once in your view, you can quickly see, and you perhaps put a display mode onto it, which view mode you would actually like to see and process the next. And when you've chosen your particular view, well, we can just close down our save views and we can open up our renderings again. And now we can go forth once more and render this up again. But before we do that, we're going to actually implement onto this something else. Because if we close this down, just very gently, you'll see that we have this train. Let's put a display mode on it. And just monochrome. Okay, we have our train. We have all of our service platforms and all that wonderful engineering stuff that's going on with a bit of architecture there in the bottom right hand corner. The problem is it doesn't have anything to place it to make it realistic. That's where we're going to be using a perspective, which is this one here in your view, change perspective. And if you click and then you hold, you change the perspective of what you're seeing. We can change our perspective, or we can, and when we come back to our rendering mode, we can now go into our Luxology environment settings. We're going to select gradient sky blue. We're going to leave all of these as their defaults, but we're going to come down to background. And in background, we're going to check on that to enable it. We're going to click on the jump box and choose image, and then we're going to click our magnifying glass. Our open dialog box opens up, and what we need to do is to scroll back up to our folder where we have for this particular session, and click on background images. There are two images, Sky 1, Sky 2. I'm going to select Sky 1, and then I'm going to say save. Once I do that, I can then close this down. I can then make sure that that one is the one chosen for this particular rendering, and I can now say begin. Wow, what a change. Putting a bit of sky in there, but really the horizon line's a bit too straight. We can change this. We can change any part of this rendering. First off, let's look at our toolbar below. We can actually come down here and say save image to file. And we can save it as any number of industry standard formats. With Sky. We'll come into our finished folder here. You can save all the image layers to file as well, individual rendered layers. Coming across here, you can see and set the Luxology rendering history folder. You can obviously delete a rendered image, and then the good set. This is the background image. We're going to click on here, and what we can do in here is that we can click on image. We can say color, and we can change the background image for our own needs. We can also, the next icon along is adjust the image settings, and under that we can now start to adjust every facet of the contrast, the brightness, the gamma, and everything like that, so that we could perhaps just have a better style of presented image. Again, at the same time, we can come to fitted to window because we can scale our image to whichever we wish. So while we've rendered a whole image, we don't actually have to take all of it. We can zoom in on a portion of it. And you can see that we've got color and alpha. We can display color only. That's quite a trip. Or just the alpha. I think color and alpha are pretty good on the whole. And then lastly, you can see you can overlay visible edges. So with that, that's rendering, basic rendering, in MicroStation V8i 3D. Thank you very much. Look forward to it next time. Bye-bye now.